came across your story, your memoir, called After Andy, and I've always been fascinated with pop art and Andy Warhol. So when I was in this Barnes and Noble and in Orange County and came across your book After Andy, and the cover and the colors and everything was like, oh my God, who is this person? And how come I don't know her? Like, what's her story? Like, so when I started reading your story, I thought to myself, oh my God, like, what, like, what made her wanted to write her autobiography? Because she has also written about like other people, like
Right.
González and Coco Chanel, and to name a few. But I think that to have, like, I don't know how to say this without sounding a little bit vulgar, to have the balls
Right.
to write your own memoir, you must think that I'm ready, like I'm ready to whatever happens.
It was more, it didn't, it came about because I was commissioned, and they said, we love the idea of a young woman with Warhol, because people always associate Warhol with men.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be interesting to have a woman's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very happy because a lot of people, Andy, I think, was much more at ease with women. And a lot of people said, oh my God, after reading your book, I really get that Andy was very kind. And they got a much more interesting perspective of him, different to this rather mean guy who used Edie Sedgwick, who used people. They realized that actually he was a positive influence on young people, as opposed to being negative. He's had a very bad
reputation
because of various books. Yeah, he didn't have the best reputation. And I have to say, I had no problem talking to him. I wasn't going to corner him and talk about his art,
mm-hmm.
but I always had a good time with him. He was very smart.
Yes, I think he was one of the smartest people ever in the history of art. So you were you are a British socialite.
I wouldn't say I'm a British socialite now.
Okay, but when the story starts, you are born in England.
Yes,
so...
absolutely. I was, you know what? It was very different then.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something I hope your readers appreciate. England then was very small, London, and you sort of, if you want, society consisted of about 12 people.
Yeah.
And they all knew each other.
Yeah, it's the same room.
And it was really weird. I remember gate crashing a wedding, and it was possible because they knew my parents. It was just very, very small.
Yeah.
And one time, Tatler, the Society magazine, did a story about foreigners in London. Okay. Now, you couldn't do that now because there are probably more foreigners who've got better houses. It's a very different world then. It was a very different world. So because my mother was a famous writer and my father was an MP, I slotted into it. But can I say I don't think I would now? I mean, it's a very different situation now. People have a lot of money and they have private planes. It's just...
Yeah, but I mean, talking about like your last name or your family connections or the relationships, the reality of the matter is that you were a British socialite.
Yeah.
So parting from that, so beginning from that point in the story, from the beginning, I suppose that, as you are telling me right now, it was a little city. Maybe you felt a bit like frustrated with how very traditional it was, the society and everything. So I can imagine you were like crazy about living in England. and am I right?
Yeah. You know, it was funny because, I was very keen to leave. I wanted to go. I wanted to work. As soon as my father died, which was 84, I wanted to leave England because I just thought I'm always going to be known as my mother's daughter. And I wanted to, and I met Warhol and I met Fred Hughes, who was his manager. And they were like, come and work for us. And it just sounded so exciting. And America then was very, very different. And I really want to underline this, that very few people, it was incredibly expensive going to New York then. No one went. You had to be, quite wealthy to go to New York. People did not go to New York from England. They went to France or they went to Italy, or it was expensive.
Yeah.
And it was very exciting then. I mean, films like Woody Allen and Sidney Lumet and Jane Fonda and all these people, it was a very different time. And on my generation, the people born in the early 60s, America had a huge influence because of music and because of film, really. Film. And there was something very exciting, and women were very, to use your word, ballsy, but they had a lot of character, and they didn't take, they stood up to men. It was a different situation, and it was very ahead of the game then. New York, there was something about New York which was it wasn't about money then.
Going back to your story and when you met Fred and Andy, you met them through your mom in London?
No, not at all. I met them through Marguerite Lippmann, who is a big art collector and also a great friend of Andy's since the 60s. And it was great. Bianca Jagger was there and all sorts of different people.
Yeah.
And she's got a lovely collection of David Hockney work. It was great fun.
So you knew about art before entering to work for them, or?
Yeah, because I don't, visiting and through my parents and.
Your parents were collectors?
Not at all. Just through going to museums, or actually lots in magazines, the color supplements, the weekend color supplements were very good then.
Did
very
you
good.
Study something in college after high school?
I didn't go. I spent too much time partying, and I didn't get my exams. I got one, and so I worked immediately on a film, Betrayal, with the producer Sam Spiegel.
Yes. So you have acted as well, and I think that's amazing because you have done like a lot of things. So when you were, I don't know, like 17 or 18, what would you want to do with your life?
I wanted to work. I wanted to work at 17. I didn't want to go to university, actually. I really wanted to work. And I did lots of different things. I was in a film called Lords of Discipline, and I was working in an agency, which represented writers and actors and actresses, actors like Alan Bates, and also Claire Bloom, people who would be less known now, but Felicity Kendall, who was huge then in the series called The Good Life, I think. But it was fun. And then I left for America.
How old were you when you left?
I was 21. No, because I worked in an agency in Los Angeles.
Oh yeah, first you arrived at LA, right?
Yeah, at LA. I went to LA, and then I was very lucky because I met the rock impresario Malcolm McLaren, who created the Sex Pistols, and that was amazing. I met lots of very interesting people in Los Angeles in the 80s, And I already knew Brian Ferry, the rock star, but he was there living with his wife and children. It was a very interesting time. You know, we met people like Steve Martin, the comedian, and John Malkovich, and all sorts of different people. Yeah. Tom Waits, the musician. Very, very interesting.
And how was LA in that time without social media or internet? I can imagine.
It was great. It was very jeans. People were very jeans and white t-shirt, and they look great. People look great. You know, these incredible bodies.
Yeah.
And hair, all that American hair and teeth, and it was fun.
I don't know if you have read the memoirs of Angelica Houston.
Yes, I didn't really know. I knew I actually dealt with her when doing a book on Lulu de la Falaise, and also the book on Sam Spiegel, the producer, because he made films with her father. She's lovely. She was lovely. But I met her actually in Paris. I didn't meet her in LA.
But I mean, like, the
beautiful woman, amazing woman,
amazing actress as well.
Amazing actress and great strength, and amazing.
What I wanted to ask you is if when you read her memoirs, when she talks about New York with Terry Richardson's father, and when she talks about LA with Jack Nicholson, and they are stories that are very influenced by her love life and her daddy issues. But I mean, how she portrays these cities are like, how would you say, do you say that that's a very accurate portrait of, or did you have like a different image, more of like a party and social thing, an artsy thing?
She lived with those men, and I never lived with Malcolm McLaren, and I never lived with Mick Jagger, who was then with his girlfriend, Jerry Hall. And to be honest, when I had my affair with Mick, I mean, it went on for about 3 years, but 17 to 20, I wasn't living with him, but he was fantastic, amazing. He stayed on. He's great. Amazing work ethic. And I'd like to say that about everyone I mentioned in my book. They all have a work ethic. They all did something with their lives. And I think that's very important,
So talking about Mick, which is a personal love of mine, which I love, and I think it's a bit creepy because he could be my grandpa.
Don't say that to him.
Well, let's make sure that he doesn't listen to this podcast. But yeah, Mick, actually he came to a concert in Peru 5 years ago, and I went with my dad.
Cool.
Yeah, and it was amazing because the Rolling Stones had never done a concert in Peru, but Mick had come to Peru a lot of times because he has good friends that have hotels, and he started to roll a movie in the 70s, I think, in the jungle.
Yes, when I was seeing him, what was he called? Herzog was trying to get him to play Fitzcarraldo.
Yeah, so I think he rolled some scenes, but then the project paralyzed or something, and so
too crazy, probably.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Mick is a living legend. I mean, he's still making music until today, and I don't know if he has really done a kind of pact with the devil or something, but the way and the energy he has, I think that's amazing.
It's amazing.
How did you met him?
I met him of Sam Spiegel. And Sam Spiegel was a producer of On the Waterfront, Lawrence of Arabia, Bridge on the River Kwai, Suddenly Last Summer, all sorts of different films. And he came on the boat with his daughter Jade and his girlfriend Jerry.
Oh, so Jade had also Jade was, Jade is his daughter with Bianca. And
Yes.
oh, so you met, the day you met Mick, you met Jerry as well.
Yes.
Oh my God.
She was marvelous, wonderful, wonderful woman, incredible model. She was a top model when I was young.
I know. Talking about Mick, I mean, he was and is until today the rock star, you know. So like, it's so easy to fall in love with him, but how can you like get into an affair or relationship or whatever you call it, and how do you manage to don't get hurt?
I was never in love with him, and I knew the deal. I thought he was fantastic. I mean, he's extraordinary, but I also knew that he was in a relationship with Jerry. And, you know, he's a naughty boy, and she was traveling a lot, but I also knew the deal. And so my heart was totally not broken by him. But I had fantastic fun with him because he was very intelligent. We saw all sorts of films together and ate in different restaurants, and he was very, very kind. And I respected him, but I was never in love with him. No.
That's so smart. That's the smartest
answer.
Think,
no, but you know what? I think you have to realize, I think you can meet someone like that and think, okay, I'm going to get him. Mm-hmm. And then I'm going to be Mrs. whatever. And that was never my case.
I think that Mick is the type of guy that he can love you very much dearly and he can fall in love with someone, but he's not a faithful or a monogamous person. So
it's, you know, some women like that. I feel that it was great then. It was great then. And he was amazing. And he still is amazing. I saw him recently at my brother's 50th. And he's still extraordinary, very charming, very elegant, very involved, and continues.
Yes, that's the thing, that he is still living and making it. Like, you know, he's like the rock star.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's very clever from you, because you were very young, and when girls are young, we tend to fall in love and confuse sex with love. And I think that's the main problem with women, when you confuse sex with love. You know, like, you have to be like very careful about your mental health and your sanity. So I think it's so cool and it's so great and it's so smart that you had it like so like clear from the beginning. But how did you feel being like the mistress?
You know what? It wasn't, first of all, he wasn't married.
Oh, yeah.
And at 17, do you really think? He wasn't the only person I was seeing. I mean, remember, it was pre-AIDS and everyone was quite promiscuous. Mm-hmm. So there we are. I mean, if he was married, I'm Catholic, and I think that would have made a difference. I've never been with a married man.
So in the book, in After Andy, there's a scene in which Jerry calls you by the phone.
Yes.
And she says, Natasha, I know what you're doing, or something like that.
She says, I thought you were my friend. She says, and all the... Yes. It was, I must say, that really did happen. And thinking back, and she then saw me at a wedding and tried to run me into a tree and everything. And I understand. I mean, I think it was, unfortunately, I think she was very in love with Mick, and I can imagine that was a nightmare. Would I do it now? No. But when you're 17,
really, you wouldn't do it again? No.
When you're older, you know, when you've been hurt, or when you're old and you've had kids, you can't do that to women. I was 17, you know. 17-year-olds are so thoughtless. We're only thinking of one thing, ourselves, and it was very different.
Okay.
But I don't regret it.
Okay.
I mean, I don't regret it, and I had such fun, you know.
It went about how many years?
Oh God, it went on for about 3.
Okay. I wanted to ask you a question, but you cannot answer it if you want to, if you think it's too much. Is really Mick Jagger that good in bed? I mean, is that a myth or what? Like, what does he have? Like why does every single woman?
He's great. He's very energetic. He's great. He's very energetic.
Okay, so
and wonderful. I mean, I don't think people are disappointed. But remember, I was 17.
Yeah,
I thought he was great. I thought he really was, and I was in that very lucky position. I had a lot of men after me, so I wasn't waiting for him to call. Ever. It was always clever. Like, oh my God. And you know, remember, it wasn't cells. We didn't have.
Yeah, how do you have an affair without WhatsApp or Instagram?
He would call, and it was all haphazard. You know, then we didn't have our phone. Now it's impossible not to get hold of people, right?
Yeah.
And then
so if he
was good.
So if he wanted to see you, he would call you home.
Yeah, he'd call, and one time he fell on my sister, and he said, "Who's this?" And she said, "Who's this?" And he said, "It's Mick." And she said, "Who's Mick?" He said, "Mick Jagger." And she said, "And I'm the Queen of Sheba." And, you know.
Yeah, that's in the book also, right?
What's interesting about that time is no one had cell phones. And yet we all saw each other in different ways. And there was kind of a space, you know, you never knew what was going to happen that day. You come home and someone, I remember when I got an answering machine in like 1982, no one had answering machines. It was this big, so I don't think, you know, there was a lot left to surprise and curiosity and adventure and going to a party and suddenly seeing, I mean, it was just all very up in the air.
Yeah, but I think that what made life in those decades more real.
I don't know whether it's real, but it was just like that. There was no.
But I mean, like I think that my generation, actually, a lot of people are living through their phones right now with this pandemic more than ever. But you know that the term, the thing that right now it could be a job to be an influencer that's just posting pictures on your cell phone. I mean, that's pretty bizarre. So
you know what, it's social media. We live in a world of social media, so everything changes. But then it's true that it was you just never knew what was going to happen next. Nothing was monitored.
Yeah.
And that's, although I do, Instagram a bit, it annoys me that people can follow you, you know, yet people, I'm a boring 57-year-old, and I have friends and they have hundreds of thousands.
But you're not a normal or boring 57-year-old.
No, but you know what I mean? I hardly have a profile, which is, but
I mean, one thing is you as a person, and the other is your digital presence.
Yeah.
Sometimes they are not well connected, but that doesn't mean that, you know, like.
Yeah. I mean, I think I have a lovely life, but I mean, for social media, my life is boring. You know, what they want, and
I don't think that your life is boring for social media at all. And you have like all these throwback pictures that would be like, you could make money about with that.
Please, Ursula, don't. I have 2 children, they'll kill me. They call me Instagranny. They call me Instagranny. And I don't even do it. I have some friends, their phone never leaves their hand. I don't do that. I really don't.
Here.
I don't. I really, really don't. I'm actually very relieved to turn it off. I need space, otherwise I go nuts.
But that's a thing that your generation, that's the one thing that we must learn about your generation, because we have to.
My generation's pretty bad, huh? My generation.
No, but we need to know how to disconnect and how to get like personal space and to respect people's personal spaces as was in, and you know, like when even if you wanted to see a person, you know, like you had to call their house and make like a phone call and, you know, like, or wrote a letter. Like nowadays you just have to react to their story in Instagram with the fire emoji, and that means you want to like have sex with them. So
right. But it's funny, it's just strange to me. But I like seeing, I don't know, I like posting things, but I don't post, then it's terrible, but it can get I can sometimes get exhausted by it.
Yeah.
I used to hate it when it would send me messages that people had, you know, I like it now, and it's very interesting following some people, but I don't do it all the time.
It's
a
different language, you know, the hashtags and the tags and everything, like it's a thing. Well, going back to the story, to your life. So yeah, I think that, as I was telling you, you know, like people used to have to make the effort to actually get to know someone, going out with someone, getting, you know, like I think that today that's so easy that.
I've never done the dating app. I've never done it, but people swear by it. Have you done it?
Yeah.
And recommend it?
Yeah, I recommend you Bumble.
Okay.
Not Tinder, Bumble.
Bumble, thank you. Bumble.
So moving forward with the questions, I wanted to ask you the difference between writing about another person, which you have with Lulu de la Falaise and Coco Chanel, and writing your story. Like,
it's very different. It's obviously the tone is very different. I did quite a bit of research for my memoir, because I remembered things and I had to check them. And, you know, I know myself, so I had to find the voice. Whereas Lulu de la Falaise or Coco Chanel or Christian Dior, it was a question of getting all the information and bringing it into the book. So it was very different. It was finding the right voice to describe them.
Yeah. So,
very different energy, because also, and not everyone got this, I wanted to capture how I felt then. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to sort of say, you know, write as a 50-year-old. I wanted to write as I felt. Mm-hmm. And some people got it and some people didn't. It was interesting.
I think I got it. Yeah, because you can tell in every chapter there's like a different you, and you're telling it from your point of where were you in that exact date, you know. So
that was it. I mean, like that embarrassing scenario with Madonna and Griffin Dunn, and where she was like, Griffin, you know, and they were making that film, Who's That Girl, when you weren't probably born. But who's that girl? And there she was.
No, I know. So I've seen the film.
But she was so beautiful in this strapless dress, and she was with Griffin Dunn, and there I was with my girlfriend, and Griffin Dunne was so embarrassed. It was very funny.
But
I was visiting him on set, and he was making a film with Madonna. It was a total disaster. You learn things. I remember thinking, I will never visit someone else on their set. Because, people are making films, they don't want you. They want to make the film. And he was so embarrassed, Griffin Dunne. And Madonna was going, Griffin, your girlfriend's here to see you. And he was so embarrassed. It was funny. She was so beautiful, Madonna. She had the most incredible skin. Like, incredible. Short hair then, very short. Beautiful. With incredible skin. It was as if there was a torch underneath.
So, with writing about the story of another person, I don't know if in the case of Lulu, or Coco was dead, but in the case of Lulu, was it like a collaboration, or did you just interviewed her?
I did the text. I very much did the text on my own, and someone else found the pictures. And Ariel de Ravenel, it was her project. She asked me to write it, and she found the pictures. But it's absolutely my text. It was my text. And
did Lulu also review it before going on print?
She died in 2011.
Oh.
And the book was published in 2014.
Oh, I thought she was alive still when you published it.
I knew her, but she wasn't alive. Wonderful woman, wonderful.
Okay, so you have just written about people that are no longer in this earth.
Yes, it's easier.
Maybe, yeah.
Writing about someone who's still alive, it's tricky. I've done one project, but it was a private project. And it's easier probably writing about someone who's died.
I wanted to ask you about Chanel.
Yes.
You worked with Karl.
Yes, Karl Lagerfeld, and he was so kind to me. He was amazed because he said, you spent your life on the phone. I did. I think I was so scared. And there were all these beautiful models like Linda Evangelista and Christy Turlington and Claudia Schiffer and Helena Christensen. And they were so beautiful. It was like being in Mount Olympus. They were like goddesses. And Karl would be fitting them and I would be talking on the phone, and it was so mad. It was fun though. He was a lot of fun.
What was your role in the company?
I was meant to be like a dog's body, and I ended up being in charge of...
What's a dog's body?
Dog's body does everything.
Okay.
And then I wasn't a very good dog's body, so they put me in charge of the camellias, and then I was in charge of the gloves, and then I left. And I went to W Magazine, and that was fun.
Yes, W Magazine. That's something... Well, I want you to know that that's one of my favorite magazines ever. I think the message of W Magazine, it's the most amazing. Like, I think it's even more cool than Vogue because it really communicates culture,
Yes.
In every single way, like music, art, film, fashion, like everything.
I think Vogue is very strong too, though.
No, yeah, but I mean, Vogue, it's more fashion,
I don't know. I think American Vogue, certainly when it was very, very good, had, culture, and they had fashion, and they had personal, and I thought it was pretty good.
I think too as well, but I think that if in a balance, if you want to get to know more about pop culture between Vogue and W, it's W. Like if you want to know about like this singer, the actress, the actor, like W, it's the media, the media platform, that platform for that. So You started working in W in which year, and how come you started
91.
working for them?
I worked at Chanel from 89 through to May 1991.
Okay.
And then after that, I was with W until November 99, and I went to work for Harper's Bazaar.
And W in Harper's Bazaar was in New York, right?
No, W was in Paris, and so was Harper's Bazaar. I was the European editor.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that's amazing. I mean, that's you have had a lot of dream jobs for.
I was, I was very lucky. I was very lucky.
But also, you have a work ethic, and you're good at your job, because, like, we can be like privileged and be lucky, but at the end of the day, like, people, they hire you and pay you because you are well.
They want the job done.
Yeah.
And they want the job done, and I always say working is the best. If you do what you love, it's just nothing beats it. It's fantastic. I read somewhere that there's a kind of guru in New York who says it's all about making money. You should only do something that helps you make money. And I do not agree with that.
No, zero.
I feel that you have to do something that you love doing, that you get excited about, that, otherwise it's a very soulless place. I can't remember who the guy is, but it kind of annoyed me.
Yeah, me too. So
because otherwise you just have these soulless, very rich kids, and what's the point?
Yeah, no. So yeah, after Harper's Bazaar, what was?
I was fired from Harper's Bazaar.
You were fired?
Kate Betts, my boss, was fired, and then they managed to fire me 4 years afterwards.
Okay.
And it was the best thing that happened to me, because I could start doing books, more and more books.
And how does the publishing in books, not magazines, how did you enter to the publishing world, and how does it work?
I got an agent, and I had a story, this idea to do Sam Spiegel, the film producer, and it sold. And from then on, people would always say, would you do this book with me? Like a very famous decorator called Tina Zavdaki. So we did that. Chanel approached me about doing Chanel, a book, the fashion book on Chanel.
Yeah.
And I was very nervous about that, because Karl had to read it. And he was fine with it. So it was good,
Yeah. I can imagine how nervous.
But he was very kind. Karl loved writers. He loved people. He loved books. He loved writing and reading.
What has been your favorite book project so far?
God. I loved doing After Andy. But I also loved doing, every book. I loved doing Christian Dior, because Monsieur Dior, I had no idea what he was like. I feel so lucky, because Monsieur Dior, I really had no idea what he was like. But I took it because it was a very well-paid job. And then I fell in love with him, and I realized what a lovely man he was. And that was very exciting.
How do you start your research for someone that is not?
I try and organize the research. And so I know I've got to do X and I've got to do Y and all that. And I try to do as much as possible. Or in this case, with Monsieur Dior, I had to interview lots of different women to talk about their experience with him, because they were still alive. It's like 6 years ago, And that's what I do, and I read a lot, and it's fun.
So you are currently a freelance writer.
Yes.
What would you say that's your favorite part of the job and your least favorite part of the job?
I love interviewing people. That's definitely a favorite. It's so interesting. You learn so much. And my least favorite, it's running after them to get paid. Yeah. Oh.
Going for that tech.
I know, but it's just like, you know, but
you still are with an agency? Do you still have an agent?
I have an agent for books, but newspaper articles and things like that, magazine articles, I do for myself.
Freelance, okay. Yeah. So, I wanted to ask you something more personal, if that's okay. I know that you have talked to me how everyone used to be so promiscuous.
Yeah.
Back
it was
then.
pre-AIDS, huh? Pre-AIDS.
Yeah, pre-AIDS.
And I'd like to say that because now it's suicide. Not using precaution, it's suicide.
Yeah.
Not just for you, for the other person as well.
Okay, so, but how about drugs? Drugs, like hard drugs? Or...
I think, unfortunately, some people have addictive personalities, and I didn't. So I tried all sorts of different things. I wasn't into hallucinogenic. And I think drugs are very scary because you don't know if you have an addictive personality, and suddenly your life could get ruined by drugs. And I think, to be honest, I'm anti-drugs because I think they numb you.
Yes.
And I think life, particularly when you're young and gorgeous like you, life is so fabulous that why does that adventure need drugs? That's what I think. But obviously, if there's a whole lot of you and you have a spliff, have a joint, that's very mild. And now it's been legalized. I find cocaine, heroin is terrifying, but cocaine and all these other drugs, like, I don't know.
Why are people in Europe so addicted to heroin?
I don't know. I don't know whether it's the ultimate high. Is it the ultimate
it's the what?
high?
Oh, the ultimate
high. I don't know. It's not my thing. Drugs are really not, and I don't even drink alcohol. It's not my thing. I think I find this enough. But some people are shy, so they like to drink.
Yeah.
And it takes the edge off.
Yeah.
Which is understandable.
What would you tell young people? I
just think drugs, you know what I think? I think it's a very slippery slope. I am anti-drugs because I think they numb you. Where do you stop? And I think they numb you. It's true that in Peru you have amazing cocaine, but if you
haven't tried it. I haven't tried it.
Yeah, but I just think it's dangerous.
Yeah,
I think it's very dangerous. I do. I think drugs are scary.
Me too.
But I also think that alcohol, if you drink too much, it's not good either.
Yeah, I think that everything, like too much of everything, is like even food or pills or whatever,
Yeah, I mean, you've got these terrible over-the-counter pills, and that's very scary. I mean, in general, obviously, if you have a bipolar condition and it's monitored, then that's amazing because you can lead a normal life in spite of being bipolar, thanks to these incredible, drugs which sort you out. Then you have situations where people don't know what they're doing and they're out of control, and
and they also can make you crazy. You can lose it,
you can. So, and I just think it's very scary. I'm anti-drugs.
I'm anti-drugs from you. So
I am, because you just don't know, and I feel that life doesn't need drugs.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I just feel that it's health is wealth.
Yeah.
And if you take drugs, you're not necessarily on good form, and that can make, if you're driving somewhere and there's 5 of you in the car and one person's taking drugs, and it can just
disabled you.
Yeah, and
this is stable your
imbalance, and not cool.
So you've been living in Paris for a few years now.
Since 89, so it's 31 years.
Okay, so it's 30. I mean, or why are you still in Paris? Like,
I love Paris. I like the French people. I think they're very good on medicine. I trust them on medicine. This is a great place to work, you know, and, you know, I'll stay here, I think. Never say never.
Yeah, but I mean, like, for, like, as I was saying before, you know, like, for a British society girl that comes from London.
I left England in 35 years ago, 36 years ago.
No, yeah, but I mean, like, someone that has, like, had that kind of childhood, like, very, like, you know, I don't know, like, traditional.
Yes.
You know.
It wasn't very traditional, it wasn't very traditional, my childhood, because my stepfather was a famous playwright, and it was a very, you know.
I mean, traditional in terms of the society you were in.
Yeah. It's, you know what, the English are much less traditional than the French. If you look at French aristocracy and the English are much more laid back.
But French, like France right now, it's the most democratic country in the world. I mean, no?
Police.
Well, I mean,
my daughters might disagree with you on that.
Okay, but
Macron likes the police. So, but it's true, you know. I mean, I feel that you're allowed to exist in France.
Yeah.
And I trust the medicine, and which is great.
But I think it's great that you can live in a place that you like, that you feel comfortable, that you can work, that you feel free, and you know, like, you have your own, like, rights. You are not a minority.
Yeah.
You know. And yeah, I think that's amazing. I don't know if there's some other project or part that we haven't talked about that you would like to share with me.
I did an essay for Show Me the Tiaras. They've done a book on tiaras.
Oh, yeah. I saw it. Yeah.
And I did an essay for that, and I've done a very short thing for Dior's book on hats. And what else? And that's the only projects I think I can talk about for the moment.
Okay, so that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
It's been amazing, and please don't hesitate in writing to me if you come to Peru, because I can take you to all these places. Yeah, please do. We have amazing food, amazing textiles as well, amazing fashion, amazing art, amazing music, and yeah, don't hesitate in writing.
I will. I've got your thing now. I hope that will happen. I hope it will happen. Thank you, Ursula.
Thanks to you. Have a great night and a great week.
Thank you very much, Ursula. Take care.
You too, please. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.